Percy, my wife.
I'm sorry. A fellow Rotarian. In Massachusetts and in Ohio, where they just came from, they were 7 years in Hamilton, Ohio, which is about 10 miles from where I grew up.
Yep.
And he said he was in the Rotary out there, so that was the most important part.
So we've been with the Salvation Army for the last 33 years. We moved around 10 times, probably a dozen of cities, 7 or 8 states. So I know more of the United States than my own country. I moved so many times. Hopefully this will be our last move, because my wife have a lot of stuff. I'm tired of carrying.
Well, over 33 years, we accumulate quite a bit of stuff. Yeah. We have 3 children and a goddaughter that God brought to us when her parents died at 15, and she's now 38. And she's also a Salvation Army officer in Hartford. So we're close to our children who are in Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Hartford. Leo, you can't tell anymore because he speaks such perfect English.
Oh yes. Yes.
Except the ladies at McDonald's at the drive-thru, they can just never understand what he's saying.
They apologize. They said the machine is, they can't hear me. The machine is broken. They said all the time with me.
But he is from Cali, Colombia. And I am from the Dominican Republic, and we met in Elizabeth, New Jersey at the Salvation Army.
Yes.
Imagine that, right? We didn't go all the way to Paris or Mexico. So we are from 2 Spanish-speaking countries, and we met at the Salvation Army, got married there, and just felt a call on our lives to serve within the ranks of the Salvation Army, and 33 years have passed. Imagine that.
33.
33 years. I'm going to use this clicker here. We wanted to share with you all about the Salvation Army and let you know that we outnumber all of you. The Salvation Army has been serving the Norwalk and surrounding communities for 140 years this year. Wow. It's a long time. There's not that many places around as long as the Salvation Army.
I told this to somebody and they say, oh, you look good for 140
This is our small property, but where we gather and serve the community since 1999, for the past 25 years. If there are any folks that are original to this community, the Salvation Army's last property was on Lowe Street, up until 1999 when the roof caved in at that property, and they quickly had to relocate. And this was actually the Lung Association's property. This facility there, and we've been there 25 years. And we can't build a second building for the architects, mostly because there's not enough parking. And so city ordinances doesn't allow you to grow any further than that. So we wanted to share a little bit about highlights of what we've been doing in the past 5 months, October through February. And this statement kind of says it all. Hope where it's needed most. Our services are helpful. They meet basic needs for children and families and adults, but overall arching thought is that we might bring hope where there's hopelessness, where there's a lack of positive reinforcement of any kind in people's lives. And so we're umbrellaing what we do, our services, with this idea that if you at least have hope, something else will fall into place. Do you agree?
So we arrived last July, 9 months ago. During that year, we served 237 households, provided with monthly groceries. You know, 23% of food is the food, to buy food is 20% higher, the price, and we have a lot of people going to our facility to get food. It's expensive.
This is an unduplicated number for 5 months, October through February. So this is not the repeat numbers, but just 237 different families have come to us saying, can you help us with food? And that is our biggest provision of service right now. We are able to provide utility and rent assistance according to funds that might be available, and we don't have a lot of those fundings. There are some larger organizations that receive funding for that. The city receives funding for rent and utility sometimes, but our basic and most primary source is providing for households is groceries. Bare shelves is not unfamiliar to those in the food provision industry. This is the duplicated number. 604 different grocery packages have gone out in 5 months. That's astounding to me, that there's that much need of people coming out requesting food. Unduplicated, 2,171 individuals, most vulnerable. We serve a lot of seniors in our area because of where we're located. There are quite a few high rises and properties in that area that seniors live on, and they come and they're needing just basic food, and so it's important. You can't survive, right? And it's what's happening downtown, if you would.
Major Percy question.
Yes.
Are some of your clients homeless, or are they mostly people with a roof over their heads and they just need food?
We have all kind of people. We're serving a lot of elderly people when we arrive, but we have all kind. Well, the last person that we served was a lady that came with 2 different shoes to our door. She wanted some food because she was homeless. But we serve all kind of people.
Is your accent British?
Yes, it is.
She happened to be from England, but she's been here over 30-something years.
Maybe you know her, Keith.
We have good friends from England, and we recognize the accent, and she walked in just wanting some food, but her appearance was someone that was not from Norwalk, and her accent, and she's just never been able to leave and go back or get settled, whatever her circumstances. So there are homeless people, there are transient people, there are many newcomers. A statistic that's not on this page is that every month, approximately 20 to 25 households are first-timers to the Salvation Army and new to this community. Lots of newcomers in Norwalk, consistently. It's a welcoming city, and it's a city that's going to have to start trying to balance how much they can continue to be a welcoming city, because it's being stretched. Services are being stretched very thin. Housing, the possibility for people to find affordable housing, especially if you're a newcomer to the United States, is very thin. And so you have multiple people living in homes, multiple families with the same address, because that's kind of the struggle that we're facing now, and that goes all into some other areas that we're not going to go to. But it's the reality of what's happening in Norwalk. Sir, you had a question.
Are you seeing people who are recent migrants coming in?
Yes. Yes, newcomers we call them. Newcomers to our community from different areas. It increases every day. We sit on some committees, emergency disaster with, forgot her name. But we are part of some of those other community providers, and there's a lot of conversation about how do you respond to an emergency, but how do you respond to the reality of today that isn't really an emergency, but it's consistent. Consistently, 5, 10, 20 new families moving in, coming in. Can you help us? Being referred by other agencies. It's not a busload all at once, but there's an influx of people coming into our communities that I don't believe are fully ready to care for, to respond to the level of need that they might present across the board. And so there's a tension there with wanting to help, wanting to receive people, wanting to welcome people, and then having provisions for that. There's a strain there.
We run out of food pretty quick.
Yes, we run out of food all the time. We are members of the Connecticut Food Share, and most of our food comes from them, but believe it or not, all of their food isn't free. most of their better products you have to purchase by case. And so we try and really monitor how much we can spend in order to have a supply available. But it's not the thought that all the food from the food bank is free. It's not free. Nothing's free, right? But we are serving. We're doing the best that we can to service.
Here we go, Christmas.
Christmas!
That's where Tom went. He saw the packages inside the other room and everywhere. 374 children, more than 200 families we served last year. So
These are little snapshots. You can't, distinguish them all, but we broke a record in how many children were served during Christmas at the Salvation Army. Of course, other agencies do different things, but 374 children in our space, Tom saw. There's a lot of bags of children and all packed up. We ran out of white bags and we ended up with black garbage bags in order to put it all in. Some children were fortunate to get bicycles, whole families, and just an opportunity to interact with them when they came in to get their packages. We multi-purpose all of our spaces for whatever we need to do. And so it was a wonderful connection with the community, and a way that we were able to bless children in the community. And the reason why I say that is because each child got a new coat, a new pair of shoes, and a toy. And extras. I mentioned New Canaan Moms group online who we connected to accidentally, and those women in your community stepped up and started sponsoring children. If there are 374 children, we need 374 sponsors. We don't have the resources to go buy for these children. Yes, ma'am.
Is this referred to as Angel Tree?
Correct.
Yes, I've heard of that.
This is the Angel Tree program. It's kind of tricky because the fact is that the sponsor is the angel, because you're the one purchasing for a child. But we've adopted this model over the years in the communities we've been at, because a parent needs the coat and the shoes, but the child needs the toy. And so we try and balance that out and to encourage the sponsor, instead of going all out with a lot of frill, get them a new coat, get them a pair of shoes, and add the toy. Sometimes people just do toy drives and we can add that. We had a wonderful experience here. A limousine company, Elite Limousine, heard about our need for toys, and they filled up a busload of toys, and random just showed up and said, "We saw you on the news, and we brought these toys for you. We asked everybody that we connect with, that we deal with." It was wonderful. So kids got something extra in there, but as people are trying to determine how to spend money, you have to have food, you have to have rent. You don't have to, you can go to a thrift store to buy a pair of shoes. And how important it was to be able to, for us, to give these children a brand new pair of shoes. The reason why we know this, folks, is because when we're doing the interview, parents say, "What size shoes do you wear? Can you take off that shoe? Let me see." They don't know, and the reason why they don't know is because it's been that long since they went to a store to try on a pair of shoes and know the size. So it's important to us. We invest a lot of our energies in trying to do things for young people, for children. Somebody keep an eye on the time there.
at the end, we packed 1,152 gifts. Can you imagine?
Yeah. Some of this information is on the brochure if you're interested in keeping that. We talked about hope when we started. 930 individuals have gathered for uplifting meetings, encouraging hope and a better future. And this is just one of those sessions where I'm talking to some of the women. We have regular activities that happen. Some of them are part of our worship services and our religious activity. We are a faith-based organization. We're a Christian organization. But also we have a women's ministries program, and we do lots of different activities for women, and this may have been one of those times that we were just sharing and interacting. So people are coming into the Salvation Army to connect with us on multiple levels. This is a picture of our congregation backwards. We don't have good sound, but it's a short video. We were asked by the Salvation Army to share what's happening in your congregation. In our core is what we call it. And so we came up with this kind of silly, goofy idea where we would just have people say the year that they started attending our small congregation. And so they stand up and they each say this. It just happened to be that one random Sunday. But that's the inside of our chapel backwards, where people typically are looking that way. But we made this recording to set up that way. And as you can see, they're mostly Hispanic people from various countries in Central and South America.
We have 8 different countries.
8 different countries that we gather with. Our worship service is in Spanish, but we do have translation available on Sundays. And as you can tell, there's not a whole lot of space there left. And so this Easter, we will begin our 2nd service on Sundays to accommodate for the people that are reaching out to us and just joining us to seek God. Oh. It's going to play, but I don't know if you'll be able to hear it. There I am. Celebrating 140 years of service to this community and the surrounding areas. And we've been in this building 25 years this year. We praise God for what He has done and for what He's going to do. We're thankful for the continuity and the growth of this school. July 2023.
2024. 2023.
And on and on.
2011.
So, how you can support? How you can support? We have a very tiny, small advisory board, and we need to connect with people in our communities to be able to help us steer and provide and connect. It's just really important.
Yeah, just to follow on your English connection, one of your very earliest and famous supporters was Winston Churchill, who knew a lot about armies, and he wrote about the Salvation Army, and I've read what he wrote about it, and he said that, I hope that is an army which keeps marching on for generation to generation, century to century. So that's what he had in mind for the Salvation Army, but he had a great, great respect for it. Also, I would add that on my wife's father was in the Pacific in the war, in the middle of the Japanese theater, so to speak, and he said that one of the things that the troops most looked forward to was the packages which came from the Salvation Army.
Yeah.
And they never forgot it.
Yeah, we heard a lot of testimonies of people that were during that war.
He never forgot it.
Yeah.
It's so important that that information is shared to the next generations. Some of you have known the Salvation Army by your own experience, but we need to connect with the next generation that doesn't have that historical perspective and let them know that we are still here, that we're still serving, that we're still under the same mission, and that need is still increasing. Different forms of need, not the same as when the war, but still today the Salvation Army is there responding. So if you're interested, we need folks to join our team and to help us accomplish things in our community. We look for people to sponsor children to attend camp. Camp Conry is in Ashland, Connecticut, I believe. It's a beautiful property. We are trying to send 15 children to camp this year. That costs us around $500 per child for 5 days. So it's not expensive, but our parents don't have $500 to send a child to camp. We are hoping to have some form of a summer day camp locally, even though we have a small space. There are so many children that we are connected with, 374 during Christmas. If we tell parents, bring your child, especially during the summer, we know that we can have people who come, but we need sponsors for children to participate. Right now we have a music teacher coming from Hartford, and a few children come on Wednesdays to learn brass music, to learn to play instruments, which is traditional Army, and so that's pretty interesting. Volunteers, that food pantry, we're hoping will become its own space in the back of our property with a prefabricated unit, and it will be a client choice pantry, fully client choice where you can walk in and shop as a store, but we'll need people in that space to walk with the client through, to help stock the shelves, to help bag, to help just greet people as they go into that. Volunteers are always needed seasonally for kettles, for bell ringing. We were fortunate to have a wonderful competition between Kiwanis and Rotary at bell ringing. They went out on the same day, and we were trying to see who would raise more money. So that was a wonderful exchange. We had 2 funeral parlors also competing at another
But who won between the Rotarians and the Kiwanis?
Rotary win. It's always a stronger club in most communities, but the Kiwanians have been very gracious to us
They're
as
good
well.
folks too.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me how many employees do we have. We only have 1 employee. So that's why we count with volunteers.
Yes.
Because there's a lot to do there.
And she works 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
This is a national statistics. It encompasses all of the Salvation Army nationwide. It's not Norwalk. Norwalk doesn't have this kind of resource yet. We need more support. But nationally, 83 cents of every dollar raised is used to sustain programs that bring hope. 12 cents to management, 5 cents to fundraising. And so when you give that dollar, most of what you're giving is going to help the actual programs and people, participants, people that we serve. And so this was just a quick glimpse at who we are, what we're doing, what's happening in Norwalk. Yes, sir.
What percentage of that national organization's total fundraising comes from the red buckets at Christmas?
It's a large percentage nationwide. Locally, I can tell you the exact number. We made $21,000.
Because we ring the bell in 4 stores.
There are 4
Just 1
locations.
Walmart.
But the reality is that nobody walks around with cash. And so the tradition of, I don't have cash ever. Well, he doesn't let me have cash.
That's why I'm married for 33
But she
years.
has credit cards.
But seriously speaking and openly speaking with you guys, what is $20,000? You know, from a $500,000 budget. We are considered a missionary chapter core of the Salvation Army because we're subsidized by Hartford, who has a larger pot and a larger area and a strong board. And they recognize the need that we respond to here, but we haven't made the connections. We need to pull on some power. And you know, kettles was a big Salvation Army thing in the past. We were everywhere, and there were lots of volunteers. Let me tell you that a volunteer saves us around $80 that we pay the bell ringer. The bell ringer is not there for free.
Wow.
In Connecticut, the bell ringer makes $15 an hour.
Is that a requirement?
Yeah, we don't have enough of you to volunteer to cover for us. But and that's why these clubs and different individuals make a difference. They make $15 an hour to bell ring for us. And so how much money are we paying them before we can gain something from it? If no one is walking around with cash, what's going in the kettle? $20,000, $21,000 was what we raised this past Christmas. Where there's a lot of traffic, Stop and Shop and Walmart. And Walmart was just one, everybody had to go to Walmart. So we are missing a connection and where's the fundraisers? Well, all the accountants over there. We need some green ink. We need some green ink, but we need some fundraising support to connect in a way that's possible. Nationally, it's millions of dollars, I believe. I don't know. I couldn't tell, but I can let you know. Yeah. Locally, it's not that. We're in need. You know, we've been around 140 years, but it's been very low profile almost for quite a while because the connection has been with people that we're serving much more than with people that can support. There was a lack there. Fortunately, Leo speaks wonderful English.
Oh, yes.
But some of our predecessors that were assigned were Hispanic people that did not have good English skills. And so they stepped away and became timid in communicating with the community that could support the Salvation Army because they just weren't comfortable. where they could identify with the newcomers and the people we were helping and communicating with them and encouraging them. They kind of slacked on being able to maintain community relations. And so we're trying to improve that. We need you. This is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Tom.
Is somewhere over there?
Yes, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. What I wanted to ask is this, there are lots of organizations and communities like Norwalk that are trying to help the hungry, the unsheltered, et cetera. I'd just like to give you an opportunity to describe what distinguishes the Salvation Army from the other 20 organizations in Norwalk that are also trying to feed people. I can guess at some of the answer, but I really want to hear it in your words.
That's a wonderful question. Can we hear your question and then we'll answer?
Oh, I was just thinking, I know the Congregational Church rings bells for Salvation Army. I would think the local churches in Norwalk could be solicited to also ring, but maybe not just the big stores like Walmart, but and Shop and Stop, Stop and Shop. Just go more local to local stores where people really feel a connection to that community. So
we are trying, we're hoping Pastor here will help us connect with some of those clergy, some of those pastors in Norwalk, because we haven't been successful in making that connection yet. But we're not giving up. We're going to the Gideon's breakfast in a few weeks, in May, I believe, just to continue to connect with people of faith and people that are closer to our community. But we don't have those connections right now. That's why, again, this is so important.
In Ohio, we had different churches that supported us during Christmas doing what you're saying. But here it's been kind of hard to. We only be here 9 months. We try to connect with them, but probably in the personal level we have to know.
What distinguishes us? Well, one is it is our faith. We don't impose our faith on anyone, but when you are in such a desperate situation that you need Pampers for your child, you're open to some kind of motivational support. And as people come to us, we're going to tell them that there's hope for a better future. We are going to share our faith. You take it, you leave it, it doesn't matter, but that makes a difference. Our ministry is motivated by the love of God. God loves everybody. And so we're standing in that position of love and grace toward people. And it makes a difference to how service is delivered to the individual. And so people come back and people tell other people, they went out of our way. You know, believe it or not, the lady with the shoes, the disparate shoes, we didn't have a pair in the building that we could, but we told her come back. And I went to Goodwill and bought some shoes and brought them back to the Salvation Army. And she found the perfect pair to fit her, and she left there with a matching pair of new shoes from Goodwill. And so you have to go out of your way if you're doing this from a point of love, of showing God's love, of trying to provoke hope into people's hearts and minds. The other thing that's distinguished about our service is that we are bilingual. And many of the people that we serve in Norwalk are Spanish speaking. There is not another agency in Norwalk, we checked this out with the food bank, that is fully multilingual and that is providing services of food without appointment. Most places there's a very long registration process. You can't just walk in. You have to provide all these details and make an appointment to get what you're trying to get. The Salvation Army is open 10 to 2, Monday through Friday, and if you come those days, you'll be helped. And if we don't have what you might need, and we recognize it's a real need, we're going to try and find a way to fulfill that and have you come back for it. And then you can continue coming. We do, take basic information for people, but what do we need all the details personally or as an organization? It's not going to hinder. We don't have any government funding at the Salvation Army. We don't have any program that, we have to report to someone about. And so I think those things distinguish us. When we are able to establish that fully choice pantry, where it's not a prepackaged bag where you walk and you say, yes, I eat spaghetti. No, I'm gluten allergic. I don't eat spaghetti. then that's gonna be an added feature to what distinguishes what we're able to do. The experience that people have when they come to us makes it different, brings people back. The lack of, the pressure and the formality of having to disclose a lot of your own situation helps people come back. And if there's an opportunity to pray for them, we're on it. You know,
we have families that live 2 and 3 and 4 families together, so when you're gonna ask for IDs for, I mean, some of them don't even have a mail address, but we know that they live with another person, we live someplace. So it's difficult, and we know the situations to impose more, you know, yeah, we know the need, so.
there's also the opportunity to come back and join other activities, like the Women's Ministry Group. It's a wonderful support system for women in our community.
Thank you.
Yeah, last Christmas there was a very nice young man with his son who was about so tall, bell ringing outside Stewart's Market. I was thrilled to see them, but I thought, what a really nice team that he brought his son along as well, so that he could see what a good thing is to do at that time of year.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that go to Norwalk or does that go to the Salvation Army nationally?
What is raised in Norwalk stays in
You know,
Norwalk.
and how about if it's raised in New Canaan, would that go to Norwalk?
To Norwalk.
Norwalk, yeah.
This is part of our service area.
Yeah.
Westport, Wilton, New Canaan. Darien becomes part of Stamford. So there's another Stop and Shop a little bit further down, that becomes part of Stamford. And then if you go a little too high up, there's Bridgeport, and there's a Salvation Army in Bridgeport.
You gotta look for the counterfeit dollars out of Darien.
We're hoping that as we share with you, it'll spark interest in you all and anyone. We're glad to have the support in this opportunity. Tom, thanks again for having us over. If you know who we can connect with in Norwalk, we did meet with Chris Cook, which is a Rotarian from the Norwalk branch over at Norwalk Inn. That's where they meet. But they are a very small Rotary Club and less
So Darien.
engaged. So
Do you come to Westport as well?
we reach up to Westport,
Yes.
yeah? Yes.
So.
Any other questions, any other suggestions?
No, just thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much.